if you're a judge in Florida, you're required to... Yeah, went to the washing machine.
What's it going to do?
No, we actually left.
It's a Southeast thing now, actually. That's a lot of daggers. We've kind of put together our Brady bunch. It's the Southeast L3s. Ben McDole, Justin Turner, Bryan Prillaman, and they've agreed to answer almost any question that you're willing to ask. As you know, in the forums, we asked for some of the questions that you might have, so we have a couple of questions already lined up that people have asked.
Many submissions.
Yeah, we did. Well, we got some more today. We might have walked around to get those, but it happened. To start, yeah, I got 6. To start off, is there anything that someone would like to start the panel off with? Yeah, look at this. What do you got?
Do I just ask them?
Yeah.
Which of you is the most humble?
No.
That was a good start.
Not actually.
That was. Yeah, that wasn't close. Question from the audience is, what can I include in my application to get accepted to a Grand Prix or Star City Games Open?
It's not on? It's not on. Hold on.
He is our regional coordinator.
It's not working. Wait, I put it on standby. Hold on. Standby.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, that's actually a very common question. To repeat for the camera, what can I put in my application to make a better chance of getting on staff for a Star City or a Grand Prix? To be completely 100% blatantly honest with you, I don't read a lot. Frankly, it's a lot of word of mouth, and it's a lot of who you are in the program and how many people recognize the good things that you're doing. People pay way more attention to the feedback that the head judge and the regional coordinator give on your application than the application itself. Caveat, if none of us know who you are, describing the good things you are doing in that application is a wonderful way for me to know who you are and what you do, if you haven't talked to me first. But the number one easiest way to get a higher percentage of chance of being on one of these events is talking to me before you apply. Letting me know what you do, showing me and telling me the things that you're doing, making sure that there's things I can verify you're actually doing and you're not bullshitting me, and then we'll have a good time. Just putting a really long 5-paragraph application in, to be honest, a lot of people just don't read. Frankly. Fair enough? Fair enough?
Sure. As L3, oh no, let's skip that one. What is the biggest misconception about L3 that you had before you leveled up to L3?
Oh boy. Yes, sir. Just leave it.
You're the one the most disillusioned, so...
Answer the question.
The statement was, I'm the one most disillusioned. Yeah, it's a strong statement. The number one thing that I think I was most disillusioned by is, man, the level 3s are the hardest working guys in the program, and they are getting stuff done. No.
It's more you guys.
Right, yeah. The other thing was that I think I kind of thought that level 3 was pretty homogenous. Like every level 3 was going to be really similar in knowledge. They're going to be really similar in policy. Really, like if I asked 10 level 3s the same policy question, I thought, oh, 10 for 10, I'm going to get the exact same answer. And the answer is that that's not true. There's a sort of a common thing, which is how often should a judge deviate? And the answer is for level 1, almost never. For level 2, maybe a little bit more. Who do you think should deviate the most at an event from written policy?
Head judge.
Head judge?
Head judge.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
It's the only
What
one that
level
can.
judge do you think should deviate the most? Well, emeritus doesn't matter. They do whatever they want.
He's running out making rules.
Right, they're like, I fly. And I'm like, yeah, good. Like, a lot of people said 4 and 5. I mean, that's what I said at first. I was like, well, level 5 is their king, king of the program. They should be able to do what they want. And the answer is that if a level 5 deviates, if, Toby Elliott deviates, and everybody's like, oh, Toby Elliott, he said this, so it's word of law. The answer is that level 3s are supposed to deviate the most.
But still not a lot.
Still not a lot, yeah, but level 3s are the ones who should deviate the most. And as such, you actually get more variety at level 3 than you do at any of the other levels. So that was probably the biggest misconception I had. And it was really surprising because I'm like, oh, you know, charge, we're all gonna be on the same page, and they were like, hey, I don't agree with you at all. Great, perfect.
Yep. Feedback?
No, that's dead on.
Mine was, I really thought level 3 had more say in things in the program than they did. We have a special list, a special forum in Judge F's, it's private. The threads are no better than the regular forums. So I really thought, like, you know, on the level 3, I really want to craft policy. I think we're going to get these really in-depth conversations where we write the IPG. No. Toby writes the IPG still. We maybe get to see it 2 days before you. That's about how that goes. Oh, that was Philbin's.
So one of the things that I thought about L3s was their participation level was unparalleled. They did all sorts of things. They had their hand in every cookie jar. They were doing all sorts of things. And then what I found is that there are some that are extremely active, and those are the ones that you see, and those are the ones that you think of as the ones who are doing a whole lot. But there are some other L3s that, for lack of a better word, coast. Yeah. So it is a good mix. It's basically a lot like level 2, only a little bit more visible. Yeah.
Back to the audience for a question.
What do you think was the biggest area of growth in our region this year, and what do you think was our biggest weakness as a region this year?
I think that's headed towards our regional coordinator.
So the question was, what was our biggest growth or strength, and what was our biggest weakness as a region this past year? Cannot list Alabama as a the biggest strength, and which I really think has always been our biggest strength, has been education and holding ourselves and our peers to a higher standard than I believe they do elsewhere. I think a lot more, well, we're known for shenanigans. A lot more shenanigans that are bad for events happen elsewhere than they do here because we're very blunt with each other, we're very close, and I think that's always been our biggest strength. It'll continue to be our biggest strength no matter how big we are, how many of you I maybe not have even met. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows me, guaranteed. Or him. So we're always able to be frank with each other, good, bad, and different, and I think that's one of our biggest strengths that other regions just don't seem to have. We just expect more from ourselves and from others. We are fun, I think more fun than a lot of other regions, which has led to our explosive growth. Before I lost North Carolina, we were the biggest region in the world, despite starting being one of the smallest regions in the world. I mean, when Florida started, when I certified, there was like 6 judges in the state. Now there's 120. That was 4 years ago. So I mean, it's explosive growth in a short period of time. I think has been A, the education, B, we're just able to make it so visible that we're having fun and be so inclusive and other people want to have fun with us that they just want to be a part of it. I think that's an amazing thing and that's what we do the best in the Southeast compared to anywhere else. Weakness. Florida. We're concentrated. All the judges are in Florida. The experience level, everybody feels like it's in Florida. We have a lot of judges outside of the region and even inside the region that are not in Florida feel like Florida gets more stuff because we have, you know, the more judges, the more this, the more that, you know, or whatever. So I think our biggest weakness is that we're concentrated in one spot. My advice, fix it. I mean, I can't fix it for you other than tell you to do so. I can't go to Mississippi and serve level 2 judges and create a community. We had to create the community that we have in Florida just the same way as any of you would have to create a community in Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I know some North Carolinians are here. Say hi to Saban for me. Some Louisianans, say hi to Vince Winger for me. But I think that's our biggest weakness, is that the spread of knowledge and experience is very minimal. We have a couple senior judges in each of the states, but it's very highly concentrated here, and it makes some people feel like they're outsiders of the region just because they're outside of Florida. We'd like to fix that. That's not the way we operate intentionally. There's just more of us here, we all live here, and we talk all the time, so it just seems like more is getting done. In reality, it's not. The numbers of events and opportunities that we get in Florida is more because of the players than because of anything that we're doing. more stores are able to have bigger tournaments so they get more PTQs, and that's why we get more opportunities for growth and advancement. So the more you build your community at home, wherever you are, whatever region you're in, the more players are going to play the game, the more judges are going to be created, which is going to turn into more events, which is going to turn into more opportunities, which is going to turn into a vibrant community. Good?
Thank you. One more from the floor. If you could change one thing about the judge program, what would it be?
You give the politest answer.
Give the politest answer.
Coming from the humble L3.
Yeah. What I would probably do is there is a large gap between a new L2 and a senior L2. Okay, if you look at the requirements to become L2, they're like the ones that are written down. They are, pass this test, do this event, do this other event, and then take an interview, have an interview with an L3, and that's a little bit nebulous. So I would probably codify a little bit more what people are looking for, because there are people out there that have that experience that's written down. They have the event experience, and then they go talk to an L3. The L3 is like, well, you need to work on this, you need to work on this, you need to work on this. So probably I would make the expectations write them down or figure out a way to express them. I mean, they are written with some wiggle room so that the L3 can use some judgment, but for the L1 that wants to be L2, he doesn't really know what areas to work on until he gets a hold of the L3 and he's like, hey, I've met these requirements, and then the L3 is like, well, you need to work on this as well. So I would probably work on getting those written up so that the L1s have a better understanding of what is expected during the L2 interview process.
Fantastic. That actually goes into our next question, so if we may just jump into that. As L3s, you're uniquely capable to administer an L2 test. If someone approaches you and wants to be an L2, what do you look for?
Hello. I get asked this one a lot.
Yeah.
So, the program is designed so that a level 3, that any judge level has an unwritten requirement, and that is to test a judge of the level higher than you to test you. Level 0 needs to convince a 1 or a 2 or higher to test them. Level 1 needs to convince a 3 or higher to test them. Level 3 needs to convince a fair amount of 4s and 5s that they're worth testing. That's the whole way that advancement of the program works. The rest of the objective mechanics are just to make sure that we have a reasonable idea that you know what you're doing without us having to spend 10 hours asking you if you know how to do a deck check. So the number one thing that you can do, that I look for, is effort. You have to bring something to the table. There has to be a reason for you to be level 2. Either for you personally, but preferably for the program. I would like to be L2 because I have mentored these 3 people in my region. The nearest L2 is 2 hours away. I would like them to be certified. I'd like to start a community in my store. Awesome. I want to be L2 because I want to judge Grand Prix and they don't take L1s anymore. That's fine goal too. However, you're going to need to put some work in besides just, I want to go to events. There has to be some growth. You have to show what is going to change for you from 1 to 2. Are you going to be more participatory in your community via forums or Facebook or email lists or chats with me on IRC or whatever? Are you going to write an article? Are you going to get involved with somebody who already is writing an article? Are you going to get involved in a project? Are you going to join the MTG rules chat and answer rules questions? Are you going to join the study group on Facebook? Any way you can figure out to get more plugged into the program is the first and really the only thing I think really all 3 of us look for is that. At L1, the expectations of your involvement are very, very small. Judge your store when you feel like it. That's it. At L2, still the expectations programmatically of your involvement are low. The expectations regionally of your involvement are not. So we are actually empowered as the regional coordinators all across the world to make different requirements for being a level 2. Here, it's effort. I think that makes sense. I think showing that you're willing to expend energy to get something you want, to be able to go to Grand Prix or whatever, it's a give and take type thing. It's a 2-way street. If you want me to expend time mentoring you up to the level, You need to come up with an idea and do something to make it worth it.
Good? So that L2 has been favorably nicknamed the meat grinder. So passing that test is a pretty big deal. How do you tell someone they passed?
I got in a lot of trouble for calling it a meat grinder.
Sorry, Shannon. Well, how do you guys do it? You can do it first. Actually, we all have different ways.
I don't remember the question. I just heard meat
How
grinder.
do you
How do you tell a candidate whether or not they passed or not?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I guess there's a few ways. I like to be upfront when you sit down with the person. I mean, there's pros and cons. there's pros and cons. If you tell them up front whether they passed or failed, they have a tendency to stop listening to what you're saying once they know the answer. However, I found that a lot of times they really worry and they stress out and they don't pay attention because they're worried about what the end result is, and they're secretly, as you go over the questions, they're counting, you know, it's like, okay, well, we went over like 1 question, 2 questions, 3, okay, I got that one wrong, okay, so I've got a 92 or something like that. If you just tell them up front, then they stop worrying about the numbers and they start listening.
I used to do it the old school way. You find out after we've gone over your test. I've switched closer to Prillaman's method, actually. I don't tell them what they got. You know, I will sit them down and just say, all right, you passed, or all right, you failed, and then let's go through it. They're gonna sit there, and they're still gonna go through every question with me. But I feel like it takes a lot of the tension out of the situation if you just say pass, fail, whatever, because that's all they want to hear. The rest of it's just education that I hope they pay attention to. So that's how I do it. Sit down, you pass, you fail. Go over the questions.
What I'll do is often I'll sit down and have them read through the exam, decide what they want to talk about first, address any issues, and then anything that hasn't been gone over, I'll go over. And then it sort of takes away the people counting and paying attention and just puts the focus on the material. Occasionally, just from time to time, I'll tell people during an L3 panel. So, Richard, congratulations. Welcome to level 2. We'll go over your test after the panel.
Also, when you asked me earlier, I do. Don't accuse me. I like you.
Question. You got one? Yeah.
What was your biggest drive in becoming an L3, and with everything going on in your life, what did you do? Like, how much time did you have to set aside to get ready for it?
You know we all got divorced, right?
Literally all 3 of us.
In the same year.
And that's what happens when you don't prep questions, because we could have avoided that one. Yes, they all got divorced. The answer is a lot. The answer is a lot.
There's a significant time investment going from 2 to 3. It involves going to a lot of events, it involves talking to the right people, it involves having deep in-depth discussions with higher level judges in the program because you want them to recommend you for advancement. The way I juggled it, and apparently failed, was I tried to keep judging strictly on the weekends, and really, even with the higher level of involvement that's expected from 2 to 3, and even once you're at 3, if you set a day a week to spend like 4 hours, you're fine. If you want to write an article, you want to have a meaningful conversation with a guy, he's not a level 3, no one's in If you spend that time anywhere between 4 and 8 hours a week, productively towards advancing your ideas in the program, articles, posts, anything like that, just talking to higher level judges through the various means that they're available day to day, you can do all right. It's not going to be a 6-month process, it might be a year process. You can shorten it or lengthen it depending upon how much time you have available. I balanced it by doing that. I spent a day a week. And then I went to every GP in the region and every GP that I could not lose money to attend. And that was about it. I wrote a bunch of articles. I wrote a weekly article series on gathering magic for about 4 months, which took 15 minutes a week. So again, the time involved is just really not that much. You just have to be productive. You have to show something.
Why'd you stop writing?
Why did I stop writing for them? editor-in-chief actually now works for Wizards. It was Patrick Jarrett, and he left, and the new editor-in-chief and I didn't really jive. Also, I was late routinely, and they didn't like that, so I don't write for them anymore.
They also stopped paying us.
Yeah, they stopped paying us.
That part. I wasn't going to say that on a microphone.
Yeah.
So, my path to L3, really, I spent a lot of time on IRC. I went to events, hang out with these guys. Ben and Turner are really good friends of mine, and being able to yeah, for medical. So just hanging out with them, you know, and seeing their successes, I kind of wanted to ascribe to that too. I joined projects, some that they're in, some that they weren't, kind of branched out and became involved. And really it was, I'll probably say like GP Orlando, where I got a big push. What? No. I'm gonna say the head judge sat down and just was like, we recognize what you're doing. We'd really like to see you at level 3, and kind of gave me the kick, because at that point, hey man, I'm not talking about that. So at that particular point, it became apparent that it was less about just talking to these guys and getting recognition in the state, and more of seeing that my efforts were being recognized outside of the state as well. And that kind of drove me to continue on, because I was putting in work and I was seeing results, not just in what I was doing, but I was seeing that others were also seeing results. And that had a good feeling, and that kind of provided a solid motivation for doing things, is being able to see results in the work that you're doing.
I was, well, still am, I guess, pretty good friends with the former level 5 Sheldon Menery, and we had to go to Miami for a PTA conference where we were representing Wizards down there, trying to get people to buy, or to get free D&D kits and Magic kits and stuff like that. And the whole drive down to Miami and drive back up was him grilling me with policy questions and why do you think we do this kind of stuff. And then afterwards we had a long talk about leveling and advancement and stuff like that. That was, I had been a level 1 judge for like a year, and I got to have like a 10-hour grill session with a level 5 who like developed our whole program.
It's not nice.
No, it was rough. The daggers would be the accurate term.
You think we're bad?
Right? No, yeah, Sheldon was the truth.
Again, you've gone into our next question.
Fantastic.
What is the biggest deficiency you had to overcome to get to L3?
I start all these? Okay, that's fine.
Start all these.
Attitude and maturity. Yes. So my what do you call them? Recommendations were written by 3 level 5s: Sheldon, Jason LeMahieu, and Scott Marshall. Sheldon's was the last because he knew me the best. So pretty much all of them were like, you know, hey, you got it, you understand how the program works, you know the rules, mostly, you know the policy pretty well, you know why we do what we do, you're a great mentor, you built a great community, but you act like a jerk. You know, you kind of just fucking be a clown all the time. You can either be the clown, Sheldon always used to say, you can either be the class clown or the president, not both, pick. And I was like, both. Can I be the president, like, can I be the Bill Clinton president? Like, you know, whatever. So that was the biggest one. It's not necessarily, and I never will, and I tell anybody who is ever above me, below me, or has any aspirations and thinks that the judge program needs to be serious, I still believe it is. You don't have to be. I wanted to be the guy that could prove them wrong. I didn't. I had to actually tone it down. If you knew me 2 years ago versus now, you'll see that I lost and I toned it down. So yeah, that was the biggest thing for me.
My biggest hurdle was who I compared myself to. So I kind of drug my feet, and when I was looking at L3s, I was looking at other L3s and going like, I'll throw out like John Alt. I was looking at him, and I was like, I don't know as much as him, so I'm not able to be an L3 because I don't know as much as him, or David Hibbs or one of those guys. So I was comparing myself to judges that had been doing things for twice as long, 3 times as long as I've been doing it, and just saying that I'm not on par. They're a level 3. I'm not able to do what they're doing, so I'm not able to do that. And once I was able to get over that and realize that, even within L3, there's bands of experience levels. I was able to get over that and move forward and start the process.
So your deficiency was realizing you were better than you are, that was it? Attitude immature.
I was smug.
Yes.
I knew the policy documents really well. I mean, I could tell you, oh yeah, that's, MCR section 4.2, the tournament shortcuts, there's 12 of them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem was that I would try to show people that I knew that, but I would try to show people like the level 5s. And they don't really care.
Nope.
So actually, Jason Lemayhew, similar, was like, hey, shut up, here's why. And then he would tell me things, and I was like, no, I know that, here's why. And he was like, that's good. You're still wrong though. And then he would, so I got a healthy dose of that. And that was, yeah, that was that.
So sour grapes.
It was sour grapes, yeah. I was like, well, I know what page and everything. And he's like, that's a good job. So I was super smug in the way I presented things. And it was actually pretty actively detrimental because it's difficult to want to learn something if the person who is going to teach it to you is going to deliver it to you in a way that only serves to illustrate how much they know.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
So that was an important thing to overcome.
One more from the audience. This will be our last question.
Wow, really? Already?
Yeah, you've been up there for a while. You talk a lot. For a judge in a very crowded scene, what's a good way to break into your judging community?
Is this me again? Like, do I have to start?
Depends on the mic.
I have to start again?
Just start. Right.
Attitude immaturity. So I assume this is, you're a certified judge in a state like Florida that are 20 judges in it. You want to know what you can do to separate yourself from the pack. Do stuff. Tell me about it. Tell him about it. Tell him about it. We are, since we're have different situations, I have more free time to dedicate to the judge program. And we're available, and we like to talk to you. And we realize that there's not that many event slots for you to come to a PTQ where we can say, random L1, if I don't know, yeah, let's give him a shot. There's just not that much to go around despite all the events that we get. So you need to separate yourself from the pack by doing other stuff in your area. Do stuff in your store, get involved. The best feedback I can get personally is if somebody comes to me and tells me you are good. If you make an impression on somebody else enough to where they come and tell me, or Prillaman, or Ben, that you're doing awesome things and you deserve a shot, is the best vote of confidence I will give anybody, period, about anything. That's just the way I love to hear it. If you can impress somebody enough to talk about you, anybody can talk about themselves. I love to do it. It's fantastic. It's a thing I like to do. But it's less beneficial than having somebody else say, hey, Turner's doing all this stuff that you know. It's really good. I think you should give it a shot. A lot of the stuff in the state is done by word of mouth. We talk every single day. And the more we hear about you, the more you're going to be separated from the pack and known as somebody who's actively getting shit done where you belong. Fair enough. If you're at a loss for what you can be doing to impress somebody to come talk to one of us about that.
So in addition to that is making yourself stand out. Be personable. Talk to people. If you can do all sorts of things in your store, but if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, it's going to be harder to get noticed. Okay, so get out, talk to people, interact with them, make them laugh, make them smile, because they're going to remember you. Okay, and that's something that sometimes you'll get judges out on the floor that'll do work and they'll get stuff done, But at the end of the day, kind of like, I don't really remember seeing him or interacting with him or anything like that. Like he was there, but it was almost like he was invisible. Okay, so go have conversations, make yourself seen. You know, I don't want to say like, don't be rude about demanding attention, but just kind of like put yourself out there, smile. Well, I know you like to demand attention, but smile, interact, be funny, tell some jokes, ask some questions, interact. Okay, don't just kind of like drift through like a ghost, because you're not going to make yourself stand out that way.
Yeah, I agree.
We talk every day.
Yeah, we literally do. I mean, whenever a good example is when the Star City Orlando in next weekend, right? You should all come and play or judge.
If you're not on staff.
Right. When the applications came in for that, they submit them to us for feedback. And the sub-regions, it's weeks. They'll submit it, and then it'll take 2 weeks, 3 weeks for all the people to give feedback. We started a Facebook chat with Turner, myself, Michael Lopez, and Prillaman, and maybe like 2 hours after they sent it to us, we had submitted feedback on every candidate. So we talk often, and
we know you if there's something to know.
Yeah, if there's someone, like if I don't, then I know if it's someone in Miami, I can talk to Michael. If it's someone in Orlando, Prillaman's. I mean, if it's someone in Gainesville, I can talk to Justin Riggs. If it's in Jacksonville, I can probably talk to Joey Kyle. If it's someone in Atlanta, I'm going to talk to CJ Schrader. Yeah, close.
Okay.
Same area. If it's Atlanta, I can talk to CJ Schrader. If it's Alabama, just decline. I mean, yeah. except for, you know, Louisiana, it's Kevin Binswangers anyway. I left the chat. You know, like, so the important thing is we know who to contact if we don't know a lot about them, right? I know if it's West Palm Beach, I can get Matt Rossi, right? I mean, we know.
Or Brittany or David.
This is West Palm Beach.
Right. Well, yes, one of them.
Or one of them, yeah.
So
it's usually going to be one of them anyway. So.
Right. Yeah. The important thing is like if you're not sure if someone knows you, at least have contact with your local L2 or with your area L2. I mean, be involved in your community, and then everything else sort of follows. If you want to be a level 2, it goes back to that. Be involved. Do the things a level 2 does. The test should just be an afterthought. And that's how this goes too. If you want to be involved at big events, then be involved locally, and it's going to grow to big events. That's just sort of the nature of the program. It is merit-based. That's all it is.
Fantastic. Round of applause for our panel. That was actually good.
I'll answer literally any question.
I'm probably in for that too.
Right,
Actually.
Yeah, you in on that?
Here comes.
He's
All right.
keeping it. Literally any question.
As you know, in the